Welcome to MIS Consulting's Webinar Wednesday, our Coffee on Us series. Today's presentation is on Epicor Financial Planner. At this point, I'll hand it over to Håkan from DS Panel as he will be our presenter.
This is a short overview of Epicor Financial Planner. My name is Håkan Ebersjö, and I'm with the company called DS Panel. That is the developer behind this tool. So what I will take you through today is a short introduction to the product. I will go through a few PowerPoint slides just to describe how it works, and then go in and show you how the workflow fits together. So basically, it's an end-to-end product from budgeting and planning, reporting, and analysis. And you can deploy it normally in the cloud, connected to on-prem ERPs, or you can run EFP on-prem and ERP on-prem. You can basically connect either or. So in this, I will go through how it's deployed in the cloud and how you connect to that, and basically what the benefits are. The main things, of course, is that you have zero footprint on your local implementation of the EFP product. Everything is deployed through the cloud, and then you have a small Excel add-on installed, and that's it. And then you connect to the source systems. You still have all your actuals and everything else flowing through automatically into EFP for reporting and budgeting and planning purposes. I will go through why you would use it, the main features, of course, and then try to show you how it could look like. The key thing with EFP, it's always about a complete FP&A process. So financial planning and analysis, and you have all that within the same setup, basically. And we work a lot with best practices in this product. So previously, in previous versions, it probably took maybe about 40 hours, so 5 days to implement and get everything working through service consultants and these kind of things, where we did modeling sessions and so on to do the setup. Today, we tend to analyze your source data to a much higher degree, and we preset it up for you. So you will have reports and some input sheets and things like that running. It doesn't mean that that's the way maybe you want to work, because the main reason why you normally pick a new system is to change something. So here is that you will have a much better discussion. It's easier to discuss things when it's around your numbers and you see things working. And then you can go in and work with consultants and so on to see how you should optimize it and make it better, basically. The other thing we introduce here is something we call live forecast. So many of you have probably heard about rolling 12. So in here, we basically can make it faster to work in that process, because rolling 12 can be tricky sometimes to use, just because it affects the whole organization. And you have a short period of time when it's open for running rolling 12. So if you're going to run it each month, it affects the whole organization. So with live forecast, you can basically activate maybe one department only or one division. So these are the guys that need to run a full approval cycle. And then some other in the organization, maybe another division, they're allowed to do updates to the forecast if they like, and some are completely closed. They are not allowed to do anything. And you can activate this whenever you like. So it's a simpler way of managing it. And then you have the organization tree. So instead of doing the setup of users, access rights, report distribution, task assignments, and all these kind of things in different places with roles and these kind of things, we have created all that through the organization tree, which we think is an easier way for most people to use. It's more tied to the organization, which means that it can be managed by a finance person or anyone, really. So you can work with delegated rights and these kind of things. So it's an easy way of managing access to the source data itself without being technical. And then you have all the other things with the web and mobile user interface as well. Just to clarify, EFP is always the multi-everything in the system. So you can always consolidate, which means that all the multi-company and all these kind of things in multiple currencies will roll up, which means you can run cross-budgeting, cross-reporting always. it's always multi-system as well, which means you can have your ERP source data plus maybe you have HR externally, you want to load that in, or you have other things that you have external that you want to have as part of this. Then you can always load it and you can run report and budgeting and planning on everything in combination. You can always run unlimited number of scenarios, actual versus forecast and so on. And you can run all of them in parallel. We never delete things, which means that you have the traceability over time. And that also goes for things like currency rates. So you can have budget rates, forecast rates, actual rates, and run comparison. It's a fast process to implement. You get a lot of business logic out of the box that you then can tailor the way you want to use it, like cash flow. So you have both long-term and short-term cash flow calculation. And the business rules are already written, but then you need to do the mapping. But you get a base set up and then you can see if it fits the way you want to work, and then you can adjust it. So the key thing here is that we try to provide a quite large box of features, and then you activate the ones you want to use, and then you can tailor it. Nothing is hard-coded here. So you can always go in and change the way you want to use it. So you can have both Excel and browser. If you're on-prem deployment only with EFP, then it will have Excel only. You will not have the browser interface. I will go through the cloud deployment here, how it looks like here. In the browser, you can work through a regular grid, if you like, and then work through the spreadsheets and so on. The design of these spreadsheets is quite free. I mean, you have a free design. So this is a symbol like an income statement roll-up, still by department. But the key thing here is that you don't have to work with all the numbers at once. So I can actually just select the portions that I'm done with, or let's say that you send in this spreadsheet for approval to your manager. He can just go in and select the part that is not approved and approve everything else. So you can work on a number by number basis to get things to approved state. Everything is always rolled up directly when you leave the cell. And then you have spreading rules implemented on the spreadsheet. So it's a fast way to collaborate. You don't need to wait for things to be updated. It's there, right there and then. Then you also have the comments and everything else. You have to select things and to do comments. So it's the collaboration to get to an approved state. It's normally fast, just because you don't open up the whole spreadsheet. If you reject something, it's not everything. Maybe you only reject the phone cost is too high. You need to reduce that. Okay, then you select that. Everything else is approved. Only open up that account, and then you send that back. But then you need to change these numbers. With the business modeling, that's where you would do things like the hierarchy setup. So here we would retrieve the standard setup from the Epicor hierarchy. So you have the categorization and everything else graphically presented in a UI, and you can drag and drop it and move things around. You will see exactly how it's mapped. The key thing here, I wouldn't say, is the hierarchy of the account, even if it's very easy to see here. But things like the department structure or the division structure or other segments that you have, here you can create hierarchies of that as well in the similar fashion that you have on your accounts, which you don't have the possibility to do in the ERP system. So you have to go in and create, just right click, create the parent, and then drag in and create this proper structure, the roll up that you want to have. And you can have multiple hierarchies on the same hierarchy. So you can have, like, say that you have an entity hierarchy that rolls up in one way for the whole consolidation purposes, and then you can have an operational that looks completely different, and they can have different access rights. So you can do multiple roll-ups of the same thing and then apply security to it. And you can differentiate security with read, write, not visible on anything. So you can say that the user can belong to two departments from a read and write access point of view, but maybe it's only write access to a single department. And then that user maybe doesn't necessarily see how it rolls up to see all the consolidated view of all the departments. And that's just driven through security, and you don't need to provide multiple input sheets or multiple reports or multiple spreadsheets. Just drive it through security, which again leads to less reports that you need to create. but still give all the same functionality. Then about the organization hierarchy, here you have the regular hierarchy. So in my case here, I have my CEO, I have my CFO, and so on. And then I have this task assignments within that for this period. And I will also see exactly what user rights that belong to that position. I can also go in and work with things like delegated tasks. So in my case here, I have Bruno March that is also delegated to order tasks from the CEO. So I can delegate to someone else, which can also be used. Let's say that my VP of sales is leaving the company. I can delegate all tasks from that user to someone else. That will inherit all the settings, all the task assignments, including all the user rights, but only for this period of time. And then you can delegate back and so on. So it's an easy way of handling security. You can have unlimited number of scenarios. It's more like a copy paste to create additional scenarios. You can also have actual overwrite within a scenario, like for the forecast, you want to have actuals feed in until the close period, and then it updates automatically within that. So it's an easy way of seeing that as well. It's just a tick box. There's no strange copy paste things going on in a spreadsheet here. It's just a tick box. Right click on it and copy with an offset of time and these kind of things year period. It's normally extremely simple, no tricks or anything else, just easy to use. The live forecast, as I mentioned, it's a simpler way of handling rolling 12. You can of course manage rolling 12 with this as well, but here you can activate the rolling whenever you like for whatever like dimension you want, like department or division, and you activate it. Okay, it should be for this period, and it should be for these departments only. They should have a structured cycle. That means that they should run through a full approval cycle, or maybe they are open to do a forecast and change the forecast numbers if they like, and some can be completely closed. They're not allowed to do any budgets or forecast updates because it's done. So this is a smart way. Let's say that you have a new employees, you're something within a department, you're extending it, and you want to have a full approval cycle of only that department, and this is an easy way of just opening up that one without opening up everything else. So what we have is that we have a complete FP&A solution. You can deploy it quickly in the cloud, and then you have the out-of-the-box feature sets, and then you have the level, the drill downs, and all these kind of things in the product. The pricing and everything else, I'm sure that you will get details about that when we come back to these days. You will see that it's actually very easy to get back the money for the investment that you do here. So let me switch over to demo and show you what we can do here. So if I go to the browser, so this is just a regular dashboard. So I'm signed in as my CEO and as also actually the administrator in this case. So I have my main overview. I will see my main KPIs that is published to me as a user. And I have my report that is attached. I have some assignments that is assigned to me as a CEO. Apparently some statuses to be updated for these as well. So I can just click on my report to see the details of that. So this is a P&L in this case. So I have my P&L report. Again, this is for, so whatever you pick. So it can be multi-company or a single company or whatever you select. So this is for a single company. If I select multiple, I would see the consolidated view. The same thing for the departments, just to see all departments, so I can drill down to it or pick different periods. Now it's for June. This is just a simple report to have attached to the dashboard. Which means that it works on any device, but it's fully integrated. If I click on something here, I can always right click on something anywhere. I can always start drilling down to details. So this will be the journal level details of that line. So here is my AR postings for that, and I can see this is how it looks like, and I have these are the source details of it. So you have a full drill down capability anywhere in the system. This also goes from Excel. So if I go back to my page here, so I have this. If I switch to a regular user here, so I can, as an admin, I can actually see what screens they will get. If I go to Scott, is one of the sales guys in this setup. So this is his graphs and his measures that he wants to use, and this his assignment. So if I click on the assignment that he has here, then I can work on the budget sheets and the budget data for this user, and then start sending in the details. So you can see that this is like a regular spreadsheet. I can see all the periods, of course. If I go in and change something, and let's say that this should be 45,000 for lodging instead, so it should be a lot more. I'm using a simple spread method here. So basically, you see that I'm weighting it out by period automatically. So that's a simple way of applying spreading. If I go in and change, so let's say that, this one should be 2,000 instead for this month. And of course, it allocates out. If you have 0 for all the periods, it would do 1/12. And this is just the way I've decided to deploy this input sheet. The other thing I can do with this is that you see that this thing here is white. That means that it's already out for approval. So you can work with status changes on one thing at a time. So now when we're done with this lodging thing here, so if I go down to my, let me see where we put our 45 here. So let's say I'm done with this now. Okay, so I can basically say, okay, this is actually okay now. So I can actually just select this and say that set off this for approval. And I can, of course, work in the opposite direction. So from reject, I can approve everything except some numbers, or increase this with 5% or something. So you see that now I can work number by number when I collaborate. If I go back to my dashboard here, so now it's off for approval. I can switch to the boss, which would be Penny, and then I can see the details of that, and I can go into just approve it if I want. So I can say that, okay, because I already know that the numbers are okay, and I can just approve it. So it's a fast way to work through the numbers. In here, you have a lot of other things. If I switch back to my administrator, just to show you what you have here. So you have, of course, all the dimension details as well. So this is what I mean. We load all the dimension details here. So I've loaded all my accounts. I would see the financials and the structure of the financials and everything else. So I can drill down to the details and see the categorization. This is something I would normally retrieve directly from Epicor. But I can also apply structures on maybe employees, which you don't have in here. And I can put other details inside. So if I want to have a new total and just add it, I just drag it up and it will be creating new summaries. So I can do that anywhere, just drag and drop or import from spreadsheet. And I can also create additional dimensions and create additional properties if I want to. The scenarios are all here. You see that I have a number of them, but it's loaded. And I can have the actual overwrite. And it's a regular copy function to create something. I can copy with an offset, just create a new scenario if I like. You can also see the workflow. In this case, I have a very simple one. So this is my workflow. And then I have the access right that belongs to that position, the read and write access. Which also means that I can assign the delegation rights for the position itself. So if the controller is leaving, I can delegate all the tasks of the controller to someone else just by add another user and delegate it. And then they will inherit all the access rights and everything else directly. And if I look at the workflow, I can see all the assigned tasks within that. And here you would also see things like the live forecast setup. You will also see the business rules if you have things deployed, like the cash flow calculations and all these kind of things. To invite managed users, you just create new user from here, and they will get an invite email with logon credentials straight to the site. And you have assigned the user rights and everything else, so they get a normal invite email with a login and everything. that describes how they should get into the system. So this is the main dashboard. If I now switch to Excel for a second here, just to show you how that would look like. So if I go back to my Excel, and if I just to sign out from this, just to show you, so log off. So when I log on to the same site with the same user, and then I get my application in Excel. So it's to the same environment that we just worked in the browser, which means that you have update possibilities from two angles. So right now I will only run financials here. And if I go and run a report from here, I can just go in and run my net income. Let's run a regular net income from here, from Excel. So okay, so this one is, I will go down and pick for one entity here. So this was consolidated. If I go down and pick maybe a period, I will pick May here. And so you see that now I have actually, so I have my periodical details here, and I have my year-to-date numbers here. I'm on rolling 12 until, so from May, and then I have some other details over here. So I say my actual previous year, I have budget next year, and so on. So it's quite complete as a report. On any number, as I mentioned earlier, right-click, you can investigate, start doing drill downs within the dimensions and everything else, but I can also go down to the journal level details. So I can start, let's say that we do a simple drill, and we break it down by department first. So I include all levels. So I can do sorting and ranking. So if I break it down, so it was only corporate, okay, fine, investigate, and I want to see the source details behind this number. Then I can click on investigate a journal, then we go into the same picture that we just saw earlier, but now for this number that we look at in the spreadsheet. And here I can look at the journal postings and see, the journal level details of that line. And what you see in this spreadsheet here, so based on the dashboard here, what you would see activated depends on the user. So everything is user dependent and what access rights you have. So this is a regular deployment. Anything in here is just numbers, just to clarify. There is no formulas going on this spreadsheet here, which makes it quite simple to work with. So in here, if this should be a percentage, we can do a percentage calculation. Just to show it in percentage, should probably look better. Take away. So you can do either the regular percentage 0, like that. You have to have percentages if you want to, or you can have it directly in the editor, because you have a report editor behind each line here, and that's something you can decide how you want to use it. And so you can apply it from the editor or from Excel. So you can use both. But you see that it's still just a number here, which means that if you do save as or anything else, it will work on any dashboard, anything that you want. The other thing to work with is, of course, you can also do entry sheets from here. You have to do regular entry sheets directly from here as well, which means that you have the regular workflow around this. So you can have the assigned task with expenses or sales details or whatever that you want to do. So if I want to do manufacturing expenses for this entity, for this department, then you can just open it up. And this depends on the task that is assigned to me as a user. So you can basically decide what user interface you want to deploy to the user. It can be both browser and Excel. So it depends on what you want to use. And then you have the regular versioning, submission, send data, and all these, and spreading rules, and all these kind of things here will be in the same spreadsheet. So that's a quick overview over EFP. I will just sign back to my PowerPoint for a second. So to summarize, we basically have all the features to be deployed in here. It's normally what we achieve is something between 50 to 90% reduced time spent on budgeting and planning processes for this. But also the business to board is reduced dramatically with 50 to 90%, just because we can reduce problems that you create for yourself when you run the budgeting process. Because most of the time you summarize numbers differently, or maybe the formula errors, and you want to reforecast something. That also requires quite a lot of work to send out spreadsheets to everyone. Here you collaborate and you get roll-ups happening at the same time. It has the full Excel capability. So all the features you do in Excel can be used, but you have all the power of a proper database connection with full security. So you don't have these copy-paste problems and everything else. All that kind of disappears. You have the integration to the source system, which means that if you add a new account, add a new department, add a new customer, add products or something, it will flow in automatically. So you have no disconnect between back and forth, copy, paste, or anything like that. It's always looking at the same numbers everywhere. You always have the single number of the truth. It's just the same things. It's not different, which is always a good thing, I think. You can also, of course, aggregate at different levels, but the source data is always the same. You don't talk about different things. I think that's also super important. When it comes to references, we have a lot of them from different verticals, if you like, all over the place. And all depends on where you come from. I mean, we can do anything from hospitality, which is like Celeste Cruises, which is running cruise ships on Mediterranean Sea, and to Gunvor Group, which is more like a financial energy type company, which is super large, $100 billion in turnover. And WD-40, which is the spray lubricant guys that you would find in any petrol station. So they are a big variety of customers, but they have the common thing that they always come from spreadsheet type of work most of the time, or they have upgraded from an older budgeting and planning solution that is not integrated. We integrate and activate processes within a lot of different areas. What you tend to pick when you deploy this is that you maybe start with the financial statement details and then maybe go into cost or revenue or something. So you tend to activate different features. And you should do that. So you should take things live very, very quickly with a solution like this, because it is very flexible and you have a lot of possibilities to change your mind. And it's normally better to take things live quickly and then come back and change the process afterwards, because you see how it works. So you have the income statement that we looked at. We drill down, you can extend it. You get a lot of templates here. Nothing is hard-coded. You also have all the drill down to source with drill page capability. You have a lot of business rules inside, including cash flow and so on. Again, with reports, with drill down capabilities, you can do budgets within cash flow as well. And it will recalculate everything every night based on your balance sheet and income statement changes. And then you get all that updated. Then you can extend it maybe into sales and do that by account manager or by product group or by customer group and these kind of things, and do follow-ups and do budgeting and planning on quantities or on sales value. That feeds into financials. Fully integrated. So that's the main things with Epicor EFP. Thank you for listening and hope that you will look at this soon again. Thank you.
Thank you very much for attending our webinar today. If we can be of any service, please reach out to Pam Rubley or Håkan Espero. We'd be very glad to answer any questions that you have.